start off with film. Last we talked to you hadn't seen film yet. What'd you learn from film that you didn't know in the first 10 minutes after the game?
Yeah, I think I think it was a lot of the things that we expected to see. Some opportunities for more ball movement and, maybe higher quality shots that, we maybe forced a little, or we were overly aggressive early in possessions. And, I think we want to play with pace. We want to get high quality shots early, but if that doesn't materialize in the way we want it, then we'd like to move the ball, make the defense work, keep attacking them, and kind of count on our ability to make plays for each other. I think we're a pretty good passing team, and I'm not sure that's really shown up for us the way it's capable of.
What about rotations? It's still early in the year. I know you don't want to take any opponent lightly, but the schedule is what it is. It kind of builds towards stronger later in the year. How much are you still tinkering with rotations at this point of the season now that they count?
Yeah, I would say we're still trying to sort things out. I think 2 exhibition games with the amount of depth that we have, and just, it's 400 minutes available. Is it enough to really kind of have definitive answers? It's a small sample size. So I think we'll try to sort of accomplish both things of still getting some guys in the game while also maybe keeping some core guys out there together for longer stretches.
And then last night was opening night for college basketball, and you coming from a Division II program, I'm curious, when you see a Hawaii Pacific upset a really good Boise State team on the road, what do you see? What do you think about something like that, and what do you tell your team about something like that?
Well, anything can happen any night in college basketball. I think that's something, it's part of what makes it so much fun, right? It's unpredictable, and I think that there's lessons for that if for everybody. I think on a large scale, the people who focus on Division I basketball probably don't understand how good some of the Division II teams and players are. I'm maybe a little bit biased with my experiences, and I know Luke was just in here, but Luke's a really good basketball player. And, last team that we had in San Diego had 6 Division II transfers, and we were, 35th in the net. So I think there's a lack of appreciation on a large scale for how good those teams and players really are.
Coach, what do you know about this team?
I know that we got great guys who are working really hard.
About East Texas A&M.
Oh, East Texas A&M. Yeah. Really aggressive defensively. I think they've been, almost top 10-ish for a few years in a row in creating turnovers. So ball security will be important. I think they feed off that a little bit. But yeah, really aggressive, athletic team. Create a little bit of chaos with their defense for sure.
You kind of touched on it when you were answering Jeff's first question. What do you want to see out of you guys? The first home game, your first game coaching, a regular season game in the pit?
Well, I'd like to see us continue to build on our start on the defensive end first and foremost. I think that's where that sort of sets the floor for us. If we're really guarding and making it difficult for them, maybe we can turn some defense into offense and kind of get things going on that end. But even if the offense takes a little bit of time to come around, we have a lot of confidence in those guys that it'll get to where we want it to be. And I think as long as we show up and defend and really compete on that end of the floor, that'll put us in a good position.
Coach, NAU took Drake to a close game yesterday, 77-71. I think this NAU team is better than people thought they were.
Yeah, potentially. I think it's hard. It's hard to, this early in the season, 1 result, 2 results. I think we're capable of, playing a lot better than we did. They may have played better than they did against us too, right? So it's hard. It's early in the year, so you don't have a lot of information, so you can kind of pick and choose. I thought I watched some of that game with NAU. It was on in the office, and they made a run. I think they got up 10 in the second half, and and then the flip side of that is Washington State, dropped one at home to Idaho. So, I don't know that either of those teams is fundamentally different based on one result, but, I think early in the year you only have a couple games, so you look at those things and compare. Idaho's a really good basketball team, though, and they're super well coached, and it wasn't a surprise that was competitive.
Yeah, one of the guys that was consistent for you, at least in the 2 exhibition games in the lineup and getting minutes, was Tomislav Buljan. Led the team in rebounds in both games. What have you liked from him so far?
Yeah, he's a really good player. I think he's a big part of what we're doing defensively because he's so versatile, and his ability to move at his size. Obviously does a great job on the glass, so that's a big part of winning the possession battle. So yeah, he's been playing great defensively. I think offensively we can do some things to get him more involved and get him some more opportunities on the move, around the basket, out in transition. He had a couple nice plays in transition in the first game. We didn't find that as much in the second one. So he's kind of a good snapshot for how our team looks right now. He's really impacting the game defensively, and we'd like to continue to get him a little more involved on offense. I think that's sort of where we are as a group.
You talked about at the end of the NAU game, you guys were switching a little bit, created some mismatches. You guys are obviously very versatile at the wing position, got a lot of interchangeable pieces, but guys like Dayton and Uriah who are a little undersized. What can you guys do defensively to make sure that those mismatches don't get exploited when they're in the game?
Yeah, that's a good question and observation. There are solutions to that, and we've talked about those, and we've worked on some of them. Again, this is a little bit of like how we approach the exhibitions is we're trying to not just evaluate the lineups and the players, but the players in different situations. Can we scram Uriah out of the post more often? Can we have him not give up switch early in possession? Like, those are some relatively easy solutions that we didn't really go to as much. We play some zone, which keeps him up higher. So there are some solutions to that kind of thing, but it's relative to opponents. And I think like for Washington State and even NAU to some degree, Zach Davidson, who had a big game against Drake, did a good job in there. So there are some matchups where we want to maybe, find some solutions for Uriah specifically. Dayton's done a pretty good job fighting in there, drawing some offensive fouls and things like that. But we want to like give them the reps to see like, okay, how often do we need to do that? Which type of players or is that solution going to be required? How do we apply that? But there are some solutions to that we have within our scheme.
So, Coach, you talked about wanting to get off to a good start defensively. I think against NAU you obviously did. I don't think they got till 10 points till like 8 minutes to go, and every basket or attempt seemed to contest it. It was a real struggle for them. But from that point on through the end of the game, it was almost kind of like both teams traded baskets type of. How did it go from like being so successful there the first 12 minutes to maybe not as much the rest of the game?
Yeah, I thought for the vast majority of the first half, we did a pretty good job defensively in what we were trying to do. The second half, we didn't quite sustain some of the ball pressure that we had in the first half, and teams make adjustments. Like they're a good basketball team and we're well coached with good players, so they make some adjustments to maybe mitigate some of the ways that we were having success and where the ball was on the floor and different things like that. But a lot of it is just ball pressure and communication. Sometimes early in the year with kind of working through things as a new group, when you have them in front of you with your defensive staff barking out all the things, like there's some benefit to the level of communication that's happening, and then they get down on the other end and they're kind of on their own. That has to they have to sustain it themselves a little bit. So those are habits that we talk about every day in practice that I think we're getting better at, but there's can be some drop off with some of the communication at times when it goes to the other end in the second half.
Another about the rotations and kind of the minutes. Against NAU, you guys did a first media timeout 4 in. It wasn't a complete line change, 5 for 5, but I think you put 4 players in at the media timeout. One of the guys who came out was Antonio Chol, who had like 9 points at that point. Is that kind of a specific example of maybe what wouldn't happen in a regular season game, or is Antonio about 3-4 minutes at a time kind of player?
Man, it could, right? Like it's kind of like it's all contextual. I think that what we try to do is think about the rotations and the minutes on a holistic scale, and then create a plan. It's not like super rigid, but we have like a sort of a map of how we want to kind of do the rotations so that we make sure we're getting the right amount of rest. Guys aren't playing, stretches that we don't feel like they can sustain the performance. And we spend a lot of time on that, having conversations with strength conditioning, and we use some data on that side to evaluate their ability to kind of handle the workload and things like that. So we put a lot into that. There could be times where guys are really going and we stick to the script, so to speak, and have them on their regular rest. And there's other times where, we'll change it on the fly. And like, if a guy's really getting it going, let him stay out there until it kind of drops off, and then adjust from there. So it's kind of contextual game to game, but in both exhibitions, we very much stuck to the scripts.
So you're very much an analytics guy, and you know the numbers, and you go by the numbers. You make a lot of decisions based on that. Some would argue that the hot hand doesn't exist, that it is percentage for the next shot is as much as it was whether you missed 10 or you made 10 in a row. So Antonio Chol, if he's scoring 9 points in the first 4 minutes and he's the hot hand, how often are you, just in general kind of terms, going to keep that hot hand in, even if it kind of messes up that rotation that you're talking about?
I mean, that's really contextual. So I wouldn't say there's like one way to do that. And I also think that's some of the stuff that we're trying to figure out. Like, I don't know where I land on the hot hand theory. I've seen guys really get it going to a place where, I'm more like, well, let's at least find out, right? Let's get a check and see here. And, so we've definitely had times with certain players where if they're really going and maybe it's their time to come out, we'll try to get him one or two. It's like, oh, let's get him another one. And like, if he makes that, we'll just keep, so we kind of let those things play out sometimes. And other times, depending on players, we might, again, stick to the script a little bit. I think that's stuff we're still learning about everybody and trying to figure out like who's a little bit more volatile with their their play, and if they really get going, we need to stick with them, and others who are just will stay in the script.
And then I promise I won't ask this question all season long, but this is still a lot of newness for a guy coming from a UC San Diego program to the Pit. A lot of players that weren't in environments like this, like Albuquerque's environment. I'm curious if there's any surprise or anything you've learned just from the first home game, which was an exhibition, to now it was a 10-point win, and a lot of people were critical. I'm curious if anything has surprised you about the reaction kind of off the court, the environment of all this. Did any of it surprise you or any of your players after Thursday's game?
No, I don't think I've been surprised by anything. I haven't had that specific conversation with any of the players relative to outside reactions. So no surprises, and that's stuff that we can't really control outside of our performance and how we play, and we just try to focus there.
Coach, I wanted to ask about Saturday's game and the promotion with purchasing a ticket. You get 2 free kids tickets, and sort of the excitement of that and getting the youngsters in the pit and building the next generation of Lobo fans.
Yeah, that's awesome. I love that. I love that we're having, promotions to get more kids in the building. One of the first things we did when we got here was, youth camp, and had all our players there meeting some of the younger Lobo fans. And, this is a generational fan base. There's so many people that I've met who have said, like, I've been coming since, at this point or this many years. And I just think that's really unique and special. And this is kind of a really kind of just a way to kind of keep that going, right? And make sure that we don't lose that generational nature to the fan base, because I think it's really, really special.
Anything else for Coach? All right.
Thanks, guys.